Chosen one, the tears you've been shedding in secret, God has been collecting them in a bottle, and tonight, that bottle is overflowing with purpose. Stop scrolling and listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about your pain. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. You were led here by divine orchestration in the exact moment your breakthrough was ready to be revealed. Tell me something. What if every tear you've cried wasn't evidence of your weakness, but proof of your preparation for something magnificent? Here's what's at stake. If you dismiss this as just another inspirational video, you'll miss the prophetic timing that's about to shift your entire trajectory. This isn't content created for views. This is a divine interruption designed specifically for where you are right now. You are not here by accident. What's coming in this message will expose why your season of weeping had to reach this exact breaking point. But first, here's what you need to understand. Your tears were never punishment. They were the irrigation system for the miracle garden God has been preparing to bloom in your life. Every night, you questioned if you could survive another day. Heaven was orchestrating the final movements of your deliverance symphony. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why the pain had to deepen before the breakthrough could surface, and you'll recognize the 3 prophetic signs that your season of sorrow is officially being called to a close. The shift isn't coming. It's here, and your spirit already knows it. This moment is charged with the kind of divine purpose that doesn't just inspire, it transforms. Hit the like button to declare, I'm ready to receive this divine message. It takes just a second, but helps spread this word to thousands of other chosen ones who need it right now. Drop 777 in the comments below if you're stepping into the overflow of divine grace, supernatural favor, and God's perfect timing. What's on your heart today? Leave your prayer request in the comments and then take a moment to lift someone else up with words of encouragement. When you share your prayer, others will intercede for you. When you pray for someone else, God moves in ways you never imagined. And to our dear channel members, your monthly support means the world. May the Lord bless you abundantly for your generosity and heart. You know, it's really something how the world pushes us to tuck our pain away, isn't it? It's almost as if we're conditioned from a young age by whispers from society, from the endless stream of carefully curated images in media, from well-meaning but often misguided advice, that vulnerability is not just a weakness, but a profound flaw to be shamed, a messy imperfection to be meticulously hidden from public view. We learn, almost instinctively, to apologize for feeling too much, for being sensitive to the deep, often tumultuous currents of life, for letting tears even think about showing up and blurring the perfectly composed stoic image we are perpetually told we must project. We become absolute masters of concealment, burying those raw moments, those authentic surges of emotion, the grief that sears, the fear that grips, the disappointment that aches, as if they're some kind of shameful secret, a blemish on our spiritual resume, a sign that we're not strong enough, not faithful enough, not together enough. We build invisible walls around our most tender places, brick by carefully laid brick, believing they offer protection, when in truth they only imprison us, keeping us isolated from the very source of comfort and healing. But here's the beautiful, liberating truth, the one that truly shifts everything, that turns our perception of strength entirely on its head, revealing a divine paradox. Heaven doesn't measure your greatness by how well you conceal your struggles, by how stoic you appear on the surface, or by how flawlessly you manage to maintain a polished, seemingly perfect facade. That's a human metric, a performance-based system that traps and diminishes the soul. Instead, God looks past the outer shell, piercing through every pretense, straight into the quiet courage of your heart. He looks at the depth you're willing to open up, the breathtaking sincerity with which you lay bare your weary, fragmented heart, and the profound, expansive space you courageously create for him to fill. It's not about how perfectly you can compose yourself in the midst of the most violent storm, meticulously arranging every hair and straightening every garment as if your appearance dictates your worth. It's about how radically honest you can be with your tender, bruised heart, allowing the divine to meet you right there in the unvarnished truth of your vulnerability, in the deepest, most shadowy valleys of your human experience, where the light of human understanding often fails. He's not waiting for you to be strong enough, to gather all your courage, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, or to present a flawless version of yourself before him. He's simply waiting for you to be open enough to uncurl your tightly clenched fists, to drop the masks, and to invite him into the very mess you've been trying so hard to hide. Think about David, the psalmist, often called a man after God's own heart. This was a king, a warrior, a leader, yet this was also a man whose tears flowed so freely and abundantly that he sometimes felt like he had no strength left, that his eyes were wasted away, consumed by grief and sorrow. He knew the crushing, soul-deep weight of betrayal from those closest to him, the relentless, suffocating pursuit of persecution by relentless enemies, and the searing agony of deep personal failures that brought him time and again to his knees in raw, gut-wrenching repentance. He was no stranger to anguish, to wrestling with his own humanity. Yet it was precisely through allowing that agony to shape him to be radically, unapologetically honest with God in his deepest laments, pouring out his very soul in psalms where he cried with unvarnished emotion, "I am worn out from groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping. I drench my couch with my tears." Psalm 6:6. He trusted God in the midst of his desperate plea to put his tears into your bottle. Are they not in your book? Psalm 56:8. Believing every single tear was seen, collected, and accounted for by the divine. His profound brokenness, his utter refusal to hide his anguish, his despair, or his sin from the Almighty became a direct pathway to his anointing, softening his heart with a divine compassion, deepening his empathy for the hurting, and cementing his utter, absolute dependence on God. His tears weren't a sign of weakness to be hidden in shame. They were a holy conduit for divine communion, a sacred language spoken directly to the Father, understood by him alone, bearing witness to a relationship of profound trust. And then there's Esther, a young woman thrust into an impossible position, an orphaned exile, carrying the unimaginable weight of her entire nation's impending destruction on her slender, vulnerable shoulders. In her overwhelming fear and deep uncertainty, she didn't immediately put on a brave, stoic face for the public, projecting an image of unshakable confidence that she didn't yet feel. Instead, before she stepped into her moment of public courage, she retreated into the quiet, desperate cries of secret prayer, entering into a period of solemn fasting and deep mourning. It was in those hidden moments of profound vulnerability, in the solitude of her chambers, that she sought divine counsel, allowing her fear to propel her not to paralysis, but to passionate intercession, preparing her for the moment she would be strategically positioned to bring deliverance to her people. Her quiet, desperate prayers, those unshed or quietly shed tears in hidden places, those agonizing wrestlings in the unseen, paved the way for a public miracle of monumental proportion, shifting the destiny of an entire nation. So please understand this with every fiber of your being. Let it settle deep into the marrow of your bones. Your tears, those moments of raw, unedited emotion that feel so vulnerable, so exposed, they are not a sign of defeat or a mark of shame. They are not a tally of your failures or an indictment of your faith. Instead, they are like water drawn from the deep, deep wells of your destiny, an essential, life-giving element for the parched landscape of your future. They aren't just falling to the ground and disappearing into nothingness, evaporating into thin air, leaving no trace. They are actively, powerfully sowing resurrection into the very soil of your future, watering seeds of purpose, of breakthrough, of healing that you haven't even seen yet. They are softening the hard, resistant places within your soul, breaking up the hardened ground of old wounds and defenses, nourishing new, unexpected growth in surprising areas, and meticulously preparing the ground for the abundant, fruitful harvest God wants to bring forth in your life. Every tear you've ever shed, every silent sob that racked your body, every tear-stained pillow has a sacred, divine purpose in the economy of God's redemptive plan for your life. None of it, not a single drop, is ever wasted. Sometimes the most profound breakthroughs, the moments of deepest clarity and radical transformation, don't come from frantically searching for every answer, relentlessly chasing down every spiritual concept, or striving with relentless human effort for intellectual understanding. Instead, they often emerge from simply slowing down, from intentionally quieting the incessant noise of the world, that constant clamor of demands and distractions, and silencing our own anxious, overthinking thoughts. They come from sitting patiently and receptively with revelation, truly allowing God's truth to settle like a gentle dew, not just on the surface of our minds, but deep into the very chambers of our spirit, down into the soul's quiet core. It's about creating that sacred, quiet, unhurried space where divine wisdom can truly land, where the Spirit can speak not just to your intellect, the part of you that grasps concepts, but directly to your soul, illuminating pathways you hadn't even perceived, revealing hidden doors you didn't know existed, and offering insights that transcend mere logic. It's about being, rather than doing, in His presence. If that profound idea of receiving revelation, rather than ceaselessly striving and straining for answers, truly resonates with the deep longing stirring in your spirit, if it feels like a gentle, undeniable echo from your inner being, then I want to tell you about the 10 hidden truths of Jesus' parables. This isn't just another spiritual book to add to your overflowing shelf. It's a short, yet incredibly powerful ebook, meticulously designed to open up practical, spirit-led truths that can directly impact foundational areas of your life. Imagine gaining clarity and breakthrough in your finances and material provision, embarking on a transformative journey toward holistic healing, spirit, soul, and body, and achieving a precious, unshakable emotional clarity that anchors you amidst life's storms. Imagine seeing God's profound, timeless wisdom for everyday life, for navigating the intricate complexities of human existence, for unlocking abundance, laid out so clearly, so tenderly, like a divine blueprint for abundant living, a roadmap to true freedom and joy. It's a resource I truly believe can be your next essential step, helping you to shift your posture from endlessly searching in the dark, stumbling through confusion, to truly seeing with spiritual eyes, discerning God's hand and purpose in every season. You can find the link to access this powerful and transformative resource in the very first comment pinned below this video. However, please do know that it's only available for a limited time, a window of divine opportunity. So if you feel that gentle nudge, that undeniable pull in your spirit, that quiet inner prompting that whispers, yes, don't let this sacred moment of divine invitation pass you by. It could very well be the very key you've been searching for, unlocking a new season of profound understanding, accelerated growth, and undeniable breakthrough in your life. Now let's transition from contemplation and quiet reflection to tangible, practical steps. Profound, actionable shifts you can begin to make right here, right now, to truly lean into this breakthrough you're sensing, this new season that is already stirring, like a gentle, insistent spring deep within you. These aren't merely abstract concepts to ponder. They are urgent, loving invitations to participate actively, courageously, in your own unfolding transformation, to become a co-creator with the divine. The very first thing you can do, and it's a powerful act of spiritual defiance, an act of self-liberation, is to lay down that persistent, insidious lie you've been carrying around, that heavy, worn-out cloak of untruth that has clung to you for far too long, weighing down your spirit. You know the one? It's that quiet, insidious whisper in the back of your mind, that familiar, almost comforting hum that keeps repeating like a broken record. Nothing will ever truly change for me. This is just how my life is, how it will always be. It tries to convince you that your past is your permanent address, an inescapable prison, that your present struggles are your unchangeable, predetermined future. That lie is subtle, like a silken cord, seemingly soft and unassuming, but it's a powerful captor, holding you bound in place, not offering genuine comfort or safety, but rather a false sense of familiar security, a known pain that's easier to bear than the terrifying, dazzling unknown promise of something new and good. It's a comfort in the familiar chains, a strange attachment to your own suffering. So in this sacred moment, wherever you are, whether you're sitting quietly in a sunlit room, walking through a bustling street, or driving in your car, I invite you to simply say out loud, or even just in your heart, with conviction, with intentionality, and with every ounce of your desire for freedom, I release what was never true about me. I lay down this lie that has bound me. Take a deep, cleansing breath as you say it, feeling the immense weight of those words settle, then lift, as if a heavy burden is being gently, irrevocably removed from your shoulders. Can you feel a subtle shift, a lightness, a new space opening within your chest, that gentle expansion, that quiet soaring in your spirit? That's the unmistakable, miraculous sound of shackles breaking, not with a jarring clamor, but with a quiet, profound surrender, a whisper of freedom. It's the sound of a false identity falling away, like shedding an old, uncomfortable skin that no longer serves the beautiful, radiant being you are destined to become. Yet as you step forward into this new freedom, there will inevitably be a moment, and it's important to be ready for it, to anticipate it, to prepare your heart for its arrival, when you'll have to confront the deeper, often unconscious reason you keep picking up those old labels, those old disempowering narratives about yourself, just when you're on the cusp of stepping into something genuinely new, something good, something truly aligned with your divine purpose. It's often our own unconscious fear of the unknown, even the good unknown, a subtle self-sabotage that pulls us back. A strange comfort in the familiar chains we've worn for so long. Second, you need to name the pattern. So many of us find ourselves perpetually stuck in frustrating, soul-wearying cycles, whether it's in our relationships, where the same conflicts arise again and again, in our finances, where abundance feels perpetually out of reach, in our career paths, feeling stagnant and unfulfilled, or even just in our ingrained emotional responses to life's challenges, reacting in the same old ways that yield the same old outcomes. We keep repeating the same mistakes, experiencing the same disappointing outcomes, not because we're cursed or inherently flawed, not because we're beyond hope, but because what isn't confronted directly, courageously, and honestly can never truly be conquered. You can't effectively fight an invisible enemy. You can't fully heal a deep wound you refuse to acknowledge, pretending it doesn't exist. Think about Jacob in the Bible, whose early life was defined by trickery and deception, by grasping and manipulation. He famously wrestled with God all night at the ford of Jabbok, a literal, agonizing struggle between his old, cunning self and his divine destiny, between the man he was and the man God was calling him to be. But before God could rename him Israel, Prince with God, before he could bestow upon him a new, noble identity and a new way of walking in the world, Jacob first had to name his wound, had to fully acknowledge his true nature, his flawed character, in that moment of profound confrontation. He had to declare in that raw, vulnerable, honest exchange, "My name is Jacob," which literally means deceiver or supplanter. He had been living under that name, that deeply ingrained identity, and that deeply ingrained cunning character for years, shaping every interaction, every choice, every relationship. He'd tricked his brother Esau out of his birthright, deceived his blind father Isaac for a blessing, God's new thing, a new identity, a new destiny, a new blessing, a new way of walking, couldn't fully enter his life where those old agreements, those old ways of being and seeing himself, still held sway, still occupied the space. So I ask you, with utmost sincerity and grace, with a heart that truly understands the struggle, what patterns keep showing up in your life, unwelcome yet persistent, like uninvited guests? What recurring themes do you see in your struggles, in your relationships, in your moments of despair? What deeply embedded lie or old coping mechanism, perhaps one that once protected you, do you need to honestly name, to call out into the light? When you shine a light on it, when you bring it into the open and acknowledge it honestly, stripping away the layers of denial or shame or rationalization, you begin to strip away its power. Truth, dear one, is the ultimate disruptor. It breaks chains and sets the captive free. Third, you've got to silence the counterfeit voice. We all have it. That subtle, often insidious tone, that familiar inner critic that starts to grow louder and more insistent, often right before a breakthrough, right when you're on the precipice of something significant, something truly divine. It's like a spiritual alarm bell, not meant to warn you of danger, but subtly designed to discourage you, to pull you back, to sow seeds of doubt, just when you're about to emerge into something incredible, something you've prayed for. Elijah, after experiencing a massive spiritual victory on Mount Carmel, a public, undeniable display of God's power, where he called down fire from heaven and dramatically defeated the prophets of Baal, experienced this profoundly. Exhausted, emotionally drained, deeply afraid, and fleeing for his life from Jezebel, he collapsed under a broom tree in the desert, consumed by utter despair and a profound sense of isolation. And that voice, that insidious hiss, whispered, "You're finished. It's all over. You are no better than your ancestors. You might as well die." It tried to convince him that his greatest work was behind him, that he was utterly alone, completely defeated, and ready to die, despite having just witnessed the most powerful miracle of his life. This voice often tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not ready enough, that you'll never measure up to the standard, that you're an imposter. It feeds you carefully crafted lies about your past failures, replaying them on a loop, and whispers impossibilities about your future, trying to shrink your vision, to diminish your hope, to keep you small and safe. Coming up, take a moment to consider the hidden habit in your own life that secretly partners with that voice, giving it leverage and credibility, allowing it to take root and flourish. Is it procrastination, that subtle deferral of action that breeds self-doubt and leaves you feeling perpetually behind? Is it perfectionism, that impossible, soul-crushing standard that keeps you from ever starting or ever feeling good enough, always chasing an elusive ideal? Is it the relentless need for external validation, outsourcing your worth, your value, and your identity to the fleeting opinions and praises of others? This hidden habit gives that critical, counterfeit voice leverage and ultimately delays your emergence into who you're truly meant to be, into the fullness of your calling, into the abundant life God has designed for you. Recognize it, call it out for what it is, a lie, a hindrance, and then actively starve it of its power by choosing different habits, by consciously choosing truth over transient feelings, by choosing courage over comfort. Fourth, it's time to interrupt your delay. We often, out of a natural human fear of the unknown or an insistent desire for absolute certainty, wait for a feeling of complete readiness, a surge of overwhelming courage, or a perfectly clear, well-lit path before we take a single step forward into our purpose. We tell ourselves with well-intentioned but limiting internal monologues, "When I feel courageous enough, when all the pieces are perfectly in place, when the fear completely vanishes, then and only then will I move." But consider Jonah, the reluctant prophet. His profound journey, his vital assignment to the people of Nineveh, only truly began when he stopped running with all his might, from the very thing that terrified him, his divine call, the purpose God had placed on his life. He tried to go in the exact opposite direction, sailing to Tarshish, fleeing the presence of the Lord, trying to escape his destiny, and God had to get his attention in a rather dramatic and uncomfortable way, through a great fish, a profound act of divine intervention. Your obedience, what God is asking of you, that small, sometimes scary step of faith into the unknown, isn't waiting on you to feel perfectly ready, perfectly equipped, or perfectly at peace. It's waiting on your surrendered yes, right now, in the midst of your uncertainty, even with the tears still fresh in your eyes, even with your heart feeling a little raw and vulnerable from the journey. It's about taking that step, however tiny, however trembling, however imperfect, because you trust the one who's asking, the one whose faithfulness is far greater than your deepest fear. It's not about mustering up a strength you don't inherently feel in that moment. It's about making a conscious choice to move forward anyway, in spite of your feelings, in spite of the lack of certainty, knowing with absolute certainty that God will meet you there in the very act of your courageous, imperfect obedience. He doesn't meet us in our perfection. He meets us in the motion, in the journey, in the trusting step. Fifth, you need to break your partnership with comfort. This might sound utterly counterintuitive, perhaps even jarring, because who among us doesn't crave comfort, ease, and predictability in a chaotic, unpredictable world? We build our lives around it, seeking soft landings and smooth paths. But true spiritual growth, true transformational breakthrough often, paradoxically, looks like chaos on the outside. It's inherently disruptive, like an earthquake shifting ancient foundations. It feels profoundly unsettling, like the very ground beneath your feet is shifting, or a familiar anchor is being lifted. It can be profoundly messy, dismantling old structures, breaking down deeply ingrained patterns, challenging every assumption you hold dear. Yet this external upheaval, this divine discomfort, this sacred breaking open, is often precisely what leads to profound breakthrough on the inside, a deeper alignment with your true self and your divine purpose, and an unparalleled liberation that sets your spirit free. Think about Gideon, initially found hiding in a wine press, secretly threshing wheat, paralyzed by deep-seated fear and an overwhelming sense of inadequacy, when God called him to lead an entire nation. His very first act of radical obedience, his initial step into his destiny, wasn't to go to war, wasn't to lead an army onto a battlefield, but to tear down his own father's altar to Baal. This was a huge, deeply uncomfortable, terrifying confrontation with idolatry and deeply entrenched tradition right in his own backyard, in his own home. This wasn't just a symbolic act. It was a terrifying public declaration of allegiance to God, risking everything, even his own life. He didn't just confront old idols. He literally set the stage for national freedom by confronting the spiritual stronghold in his own family, in his own lineage. It was a terrifying act, fraught with immense personal risk, but it broke his partnership with false comfort, revealed his true, unwavering allegiance, and powerfully empowered him to step into his destiny as a mighty warrior, the very man God declared him to be. Coming up, realize this profound, liberating truth. Sometimes the next step isn't about doing more, piling on new tasks or responsibilities, or pushing harder in areas where you're already exhausted. Instead, it's about undoing who you thought you had to become to survive, shedding layers of people-pleasing that suffocated your true voice and kept you small, dismantling self-protection mechanisms that walled off your beautiful, tender heart from genuine connection, and courageously letting go of old coping mechanisms that no longer serve your true self or your divine purpose. It's about letting go of the false identities you've worn for safety, allowing God to lovingly, gently, yet firmly strip away what isn't truly you, revealing the authentic, glorious masterpiece beneath. Sixth, open your hands. This is not merely a physical gesture, though it can begin there. It is a profound posture of spiritual release, a declaration of deep trust and radical surrender. We often cling tightly, with a white-knuckled, desperate grip, to what we think we absolutely need, to our carefully constructed plans, to our deep-seated expectations of how life should unfold, or even to certain people, specific relationships or material possessions, believing they are absolutely essential for our security, our happiness, our identity. But sometimes, losing what you thought you absolutely needed, experiencing the profound, agonizing act of letting go, is God's divine, profound way of making unshakable space for what truly cannot be taken from you, for blessings of an eternal nature, for something far more valuable than anything you could grasp. Consider Job, a man of immense righteousness, spiritual integrity, and vast wealth. He lost literally everything: his beloved children, his vast wealth, his physical health, his sterling reputation, his very standing in the community, the respect of his closest friends. He sat on an ash heap, grieving deeply, in utter despair, stripped bare of everything he held dear, and yet in that desolate, broken place, in that moment of ultimate emptiness and profound sorrow, he still found the capacity to weep and, remarkably, to worship. In that place of ultimate emptiness, he opened his hands in surrender, not just to his pain, but to God's sovereign, incomprehensible will, and he worshipped, declaring, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1:21. And it was there, in that profound posture of surrender, worship, and trust, not before, that God restored double to him, blessing him beyond his wildest imagination, beyond what he had before. When you open your hands, when you unclench your grasp on what you cannot control, on what was never truly yours to hold, you create a sacred, empty space for God to fill with something new, something deeper, something eternal. Like an unshakable inner peace that transcends all human understanding, profound spiritual insight that illuminates your path, an unassailable character forged in the fires of adversity, or an anointing that flows from true resilience and utter dependence on Him. What are you holding on to so tightly, with such fear, with such a desperate grip, that it's keeping your hands too full for God to pour new, unexpected, and truly miraculous blessings into? Seventh, submit your questions. Let them lovingly turn into prayers. It's completely normal and indeed even healthy to have questions, to wrestle with doubts, to experience periods of profound confusion, especially in difficult, disorienting seasons of life. God isn't afraid of your questions, dear one. In fact, He invites them. He welcomes your honest inquiry, your wrestling, your struggle to understand, your unvarnished curiosity. He can handle your deepest doubts and your rawest frustration. But there's a subtle yet profound shift in posture that changes everything. Move from demanding answers from God in a spirit of accusation, frustration, or entitlement, to humbly asking questions with God in a posture of humility, genuine curiosity, and deep trust, inviting Him into your confusion. Mary, when told by the angel Gabriel that she, a young virgin, would miraculously conceive Jesus, the Son of God, didn't immediately get all her logical answers up front, nor did she fully grasp the magnitude of the miracle. She, quite reasonably, asked, "How can this be, since I'm a virgin?" Luke 1:34. But her response, critically, wasn't to doubt God's power or to defiantly reject His plan. It was an invitation to God, a profound surrender. "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be unto me according to your word." Luke 1:38. Her humble question, born of wonder and a desire to understand, led not to unbelief, but to an open-handed surrender, a profound yes to the impossible. Her surrender was the very invitation the miracle needed, the fertile ground for the impossible to become gloriously possible. When you turn your questions into prayers, when you lay your confusion, your uncertainty, and your longings before God with an open heart and a seeking spirit, you are not resigning yourself to fate or giving up on understanding. You are actively inviting God to work in ways you can't yet imagine, opening the door for His divine will to unfold in your life, even if the answers come in ways you didn't expect or in a time frame you didn't anticipate. Eighth, learn to see your wilderness as a womb, not a tomb. Every one of us, without exception, goes through wilderness seasons, times of isolation, profound struggle, deep confusion, or feeling utterly lost, unproductive, and completely alone. It can feel like an ending, a dead end, a barren place where dreams go to die, where hope withers and shrivels under the harsh sun, a place of punishment or abandonment. But often, what feels like an ending, what looks like desolation and utter emptiness, is actually precisely where God's greatest forming, His deepest incubation, His most profound work of preparation, takes place within your spirit and character. Think about Moses. He wasn't simply exiled to the desert for 40 years as a punishment for his rash actions for striking the Egyptian. He was profoundly incubated there, sheltered yet stripped bare. God meticulously stripped away his Egyptian identity, his reliance on worldly power, and the vestiges of his princely arrogance, preparing him for true leadership. He taught him humility, utter dependence, and forged within him the quiet strength, the unwavering character, and the leadership qualities he would desperately need to lead a nation of millions out of bondage. The desert refined him. It didn't destroy him. It was a crucible of transformation, not a graveyard of dreams. What seems like a barren, empty, unproductive place in your life right now might just be the very womb where God is forming something powerful within you, something miraculous, preparing you for a purpose far greater than you can currently see or comprehend. It's a time of hidden growth, not hidden destruction, a time of sacred gestation, a divine pause, not abandonment. Trust the process, even when you can't see the fruit, even when the barrenness seems endless, because God is doing His deepest work in the unseen. Ninth, bless the place you thought was barren. We all have those areas in our lives that feel stubbornly dry, consistently unproductive, or utterly hopeless. Perhaps it's a long-held dream that seems to have died a slow, painful death, a challenging relationship that feels beyond repair, a career path that has stalled indefinitely, or even a part of your own life story, a chapter you wish you could erase that carries deep shame or regret. We've wept over them, felt despair in their emptiness, prayed countless prayers that seem to vanish into thin air, hitting a ceiling, leaving us feeling unheard. Consider Hannah, who wept bitter, inconsolable tears and poured out her soul over her barrenness, ridiculed and heartbroken by those around her, her grief a constant companion. But when her sorrow, her deep anguish, turned into an act of profound, active trust, when she poured out her heart to God in the temple and courageously declared her faith, making a vow even in that dry, seemingly hopeless place, her barren womb conceived Samuel, a child who would become a mighty prophet and change a nation. 1 Samuel 1. Sometimes the miracle you're waiting for, the breakthrough you long to see, the life you crave, is waiting for your blessing, even in the dry, seemingly barren place, even over the ashes of your disappointment. It's an act of profound, courageous faith to speak life, to declare God's potential, and to bless what appears to be empty, to call forth what is not as though it were, to decree life where only death seems to reign. It's not denying the painful reality of your circumstances, but rather seeing God's greater truth, His sovereign purpose, and His life-giving power hovering over your circumstances, waiting for your invitation, waiting for you to co-create with Him through faith-filled words. 10th, embrace the contradiction. This is a powerful spiritual paradox, a divine reversal that can fundamentally shift your entire perspective and unlock a new dimension of God's power in your life. You may feel weakest, most inadequate, most broken, or most limited in the very area where God intends to show Himself strongest, most glorious, and most powerfully at work. It's not an accident, it's a divine strategy, a holy design. Think about Paul and his famous thorn in the flesh, 2 Corinthians 12:7-10. He pleaded with God 3 times, with desperate, heartfelt prayers, begging him to remove this agonizing affliction, whatever it may have been, this constant torment. But God's answer was profound, revolutionary, and utterly counterintuitive to human logic. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Paul's thorn wasn't a disqualification for his monumental ministry. It was the precise stage upon which unstoppable, unearned grace would be displayed. It kept him humble, utterly dependent on God alone, preventing any self-exaltation or pride, and paradoxically allowed God's power to flow unhindered, unrestrained through him, making him one of the most effective, impactful apostles in history. This isn't about seeking out pain or clinging to suffering as a virtue. It's about recognizing that God can use all of your life, even the parts you perceive as flaws, as limitations, as chronic weaknesses, as your greatest failures, to display his magnificent strength and bring glory to his name. Your vulnerability, your human frailties, your honest weaknesses can be a direct, pure conduit for his divine, transformative power to flow into and through your life, impacting countless others. 11th, recognize the root of delay. Often, what's truly holding you back, keeping you in a state of suspended animation just before a breakthrough, isn't simply fear of the unknown or a past failure that wounded you deeply, leaving scars that still ache. While those certainly play a significant role, there's often a deeper, more subtle, and profoundly ingrained root at play, hidden in plain sight. It's a hidden loyalty to an old version of you, a deep, often unconscious commitment to who you used to be, even if that identity is now limiting, painful, or completely out of alignment with your true self and your divine calling. It's the insidious comfort of the known, even if that known is a prison, a familiar cage. It's the identity you've built around surviving, around people-pleasing to gain acceptance, around staying small or safe to avoid rejection, around being what others expect you to be rather than living authentically. Jesus, when he called his first disciples by the Sea of Galilee, asked them to leave literally everything behind: their nets, their boats, their livelihood, their security, and even their families, to follow him. This wasn't just a simple career change or a minor adjustment. It was a radical, absolute detachment from their past identity, their security, their familiar world, and their very self-definition. They had to lay down who they were, who they had always been, to become who he was calling them to be, fishers of men, architects of a new kingdom. So I ask you, with immense love and spiritual clarity, with gentle, piercing insight, what is God quietly asking you to lay down? What old version of yourself, what old coping mechanism that once served you but now hinders you, what old comfort are you holding on to so tightly, with such a desperate grip that your hands aren't empty enough for him to fill them with something new, something extraordinary, something truly aligned with your divine destiny? True breakthrough often requires a conscious, courageous shedding of the old to fully embrace the new, to step into the glorious, authentic person God always intended you to be. 12th, and this is truly profound, prepare to receive the unexpected. Sometimes, your breakthrough is not the immediate instant removal of all pain, not the miraculous vanishing act of all your struggles and wounds, as much as our human hearts might long for that sweet relief. Instead, it's the profound, life-altering, paradigm-shifting revelation that the pain itself has become power, transformed, redeemed, and multiplied beyond anything you could have imagined in your darkest moments. This is the holy contradiction that flips everything on its head, that reshapes your entire narrative, turning tragedy into triumph. Your tears, every single one meticulously collected and treasured by God in his divine bottle, have become the very oil of your anointing, the sacred lubricant for your purpose, the fuel for your next chapter. Nothing, absolutely nothing, was wasted in your journey. No tear was shed in vain. No suffering was without purpose in the grand tapestry of God's plan. What you thought buried you, what felt like the absolute end, the final blow, the crushing defeat, was always planting you for a powerful, redemptive purpose, a harvest far greater than the sorrow you sowed. Your deepest wounds become the wellspring of your greatest empathy, allowing you to connect with and minister to others in ways untouched by mere intellect or surface understanding. They become the most impactful and authentic part of your testimony, giving weight, credibility, and raw power to your story, making it resonate with the hearts of those who need to hear it most. And they become the undeniable source of your anointing to serve and lead others, a divine authority born not from perfection, but from shared suffering and profound divine redemption. Your mess truly becomes your most potent, most compelling, and most impactful message to a hurting world. Before you go, I want you to take a deep breath right here, right now, wherever you are. Just breathe in slowly, drawing in the peace and presence of the divine, and breathe out fully, releasing any lingering tension, any lingering doubt, any residual pain, grounding yourself in this sacred moment, this holy now. And then I invite you to let your heart, not just your logical mind, truly agree with these powerful words. Say them out loud if you feel comfortable, letting the vibrations of truth fill your space, or simply let them settle deep within your spirit, letting them become a living, breathing truth within you, anchoring you in hope. God, I thank you for every tear I've shed, for every waiting season, for every hidden fight I've endured in the quiet, unseen chambers of my soul. Tonight, in this very moment, with my heart open and my hands surrendered, I choose to step out of sorrow and into overflow. I accept my sacred place in your miracle, knowing with unwavering faith and absolute certainty that you are working all things, even the broken pieces, even the shattered fragments, for my good and for your eternal glory. I declare that I am ready for the new thing you are doing. If this message spoke to you, if it resonated deep within your spirit, touching a tender place or stirring a quiet, insistent hope within your soul, please don't let this moment pass by without acknowledging it, without embracing it. Let these profound truths settle in your heart, not just in your head, allowing them to transform your perspective from the inside out, planting seeds of fresh courage. And if you feel led, if your spirit stirs, share your Amen in the comments below. It's a powerful way to declare your faith, to anchor these truths deeply in your own heart, and to encourage someone else who might be reading, someone who's also waiting for their own dawn, their own profound breakthrough, feeling unseen or unheard in their own journey. Remember, dear one, your breakthrough is not a distant, elusive dream. It is already in motion, already being divinely orchestrated. It's closer than you think, often hidden in the very struggles you're navigating, concealed in the very pain you're enduring. Keep holding on, keep leaning in, keep trusting in the unseen hand that guides you, the unwavering love that sustains you. You are not alone on this journey.